Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to a special edition of Rajwana TV. With me today I have Sanjay Suri, who I'll give you a brief explanation of who Sanjay Suri is. We've done an episode with him before. If you refer to that video, it's about when Sanjay Suri went to see Sant Bhindranwale's village on the day of Sant Bhindranwale's Shahidi on June 6, 1984. Now we commemorate another anniversary of the Delhi genocide, and a lot of people call them riots, but I call them a genocide because everything that points to what happened on those 3-4 days, as Sanjay Suri would explain, points to a genocide. Sanjay Suri, as I've mentioned earlier in a previous video, was a crime reporter for the Indian Express at that time. So Sanjay Suri himself has seen a lot and written a lot. At the moment, Sanjay Suri is the CBN and
CNN IBN editor for Europe.
Editor for Europe. But more importantly, especially for this time of year, Sanjay Suri has authored a book called 1984, The Anti-Sikh Violence and After. HarperCollins have published the book, haven't they? This is the book. You can get it on Amazon, and it's got a lot of reviews in India. Even in India, 2 of the major newspapers haven't done reviews of it. Is it the Hindustan Times and the Times of India?
That's right.
And I think that's probably for obvious reasons. But it's been reviewed in Punjab, it's been reviewed in Delhi, and I think it's selling fast. So get yourselves a copy of this book. Sanjay Suri isn't somebody who's gone on the internet or he sort of read books. Sanjay Suri was a reporter and a journalist at that time. So there's a particular thing that Sanjay Suri's witnessed, and we're going to go into that in detail. But first, Mr. Suri, congratulations on the book first. I think it's.
I wish I never had to write it.
Yeah, of course. And that's such a big of you to say that. 1984, just before Indira Gandhi is assassinated, where were you and what were you sort of doing? Were you just on normal projects and research and reporting, or did you feel that there was something in the air?
There was something in the air.
Yeah.
Oh yes, it was hanging heavy in the air. I reported from Punjab in '84, as we discussed in the last conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, just everybody knew something's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going to happen. That will not be the end of it. Yeah. And it was. It happened that morning, and I was at home, sitting down to breakfast. It was after 9 on the morning of the 31st of October in '84. Mm-hmm. The phone rang and I answered, and it was an officer I knew, a police officer I knew, who called and said, "Pata kar, Indira nu goli vaji hai." And that's when things changed. That day I remember going to the Medical Institute, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi, where she had been taken. There was no question of going to One Safdarjung Road, where she had actually been killed. It was cordoned off. But the whole day was spent from police officers and contacts trying to piece together the assassination, how it happened. And very briefly, we know what happened, that she was on the way to her Akbar Road office, and Beant Singh was on duty, and Satwant Singh had managed to have his duties changed, his posting, and the 2 were there. Beant fired from his revolver, then Satwant Singh fired from his Sten gun. She was killed, I think 30 bullets through her. But then, Beant Singh threw his pistol down, and Satwant Singh threw his Sten gun down. And Beant Singh said, "Asi jo karna si kar le, tusi jo karna karo." Now, the oldest rule in the book is, if somebody has surrendered, then you don't shoot him. In this case, let us say that you do not credit the police with any great morality, but it would have made strict policing sense for people not to have shot at these guys, because you would want to interrogate, was there a bigger conspiracy behind it? They would want to question them. Exactly how they were shot is still not very clear. They say that they were taken, and some Indo-Tibetan border police force that was given charge of security, and it was also called the SPG, the Special Protection Group. So these were people, there was an argument that they fired. Somebody said actually Beant Singh provoked the firing. He turned on them because he knew that he thought that if he's arrested, they'll torture him. And as a police officer, he would know that the Delhi police do that routinely.
Mhm.
He provoked something and people shot at him. In the sense, he invited it. Now, that bit is still not known. But anyway, that is the report that I was working on that day. So the story was that day, the assassination. Later in the evening, my colleague went out to the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and he reported that there had been scuffles, skirmishes, people had punched, taken some sick passengers down on buses,
Mhm.
hit them. But there were no killings that day.
Was he still on the 31st?
31st,
Mm.
we are talking about the evening of the 31st, when Indira Gandhi had been shot about 9:20 or so on the morning of the 31st. By about midday, everybody knew that she was dead.
Mhm.
We actually knew straight away she was not going to survive that kind of firing. And later in the afternoon, it was announced on All India Radio that she had been killed.
So but at that point, it was only sporadic, some of the violence and a bit
It
scattered.
was even sporadic,
Mm.
localized, but not serious.
Mhm.
Well, serious in the sense that we are speaking in context.
In
Of
context.
course, it's serious to pull a passenger down and punch him and hit him for
Mhm.
doing nothing than sitting in a bus and going home.
Mhm.
Of course, it's serious. But
In the
seeing what
context of what
happened,
happened afterwards, yeah.
seeing what happened.
Mhm.
Well, let's not say serious or not serious, but no killings,
Mhm.
no serious injuries either.
Mhm.
Right? No knife attacks, no nothing of the kind.
Yeah.
So that evening, very clearly, a crowd had gathered outside the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and this was a Congress loyal crowd. It became clear from the slogans, and it was, of course, going to be only natural that her party people would come and make their extra bit and come. Otherwise, during the middle of a working day,
Mhm.
how many people are going to just leave their offices and come and stand outside the hospital? Who's going to do that?
And at that point, what were the slogans like? What was the nature of the slogans?
The first of that chilling slogan was heard that evening, "Khoon ka badla, khoon se denge."
Which means blood for blood.
Blood for blood. That is the first time it was heard.
Mhm.
It was heard later in the evening. It was heard after a fairly substantial crowd had gathered there. It was after that, after the announcement that Indira Gandhi was, the official announcement, though everybody knew it even earlier that afternoon. But that is when this crowd fanned out and started attacking. There were 6 who were attacked who happened to be passing by, but then the first signs of organized violence came actually that evening. This is the evening of 31st October,
Yeah.
the day Indira Gandhi. And it was this crowd. The official police record, and nobody challenges this, 13 Gurdwaras were attacked that evening.
Mhm.
All in the area around the All India Institute of Medical Sciences,
Right.
in Defence Colony, Lajpat Nagar, on the western side of Delhi, R.K. Puram side. So it was this crowd that moved out from there and attacked some Gurdwaras. But again, this was attack in the sense that they pelted stones and they shouted and this, that. Nobody actually invaded and attacked.
Mhm.
So we had attacked. And that is what happened on that evening.
And probably one of the most telling attacks on that day, before they became very organised and very ruthless, was the attack on the president when he arrived at the All India Medical Institute,
Yes,
when even the president wasn't spared because of his appearance.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
The president was driving to the medical institute, and people, of course, saw that this is the president, and it was this crowd that he was driving through.
Yeah.
And so they pelted stones and they tried to attack, and it was.
I think that for me the most harrowing aspect of that attack isn't that he was physically attacked, it's if the president, because he looks
Yeah.
like a Sikh,
Yeah.
isn't safe then
Yes.
for the next 3-4 days,
Sure.
who
Sure.
really would be?
Sure.
So then that night passes and you probably realise I'm going to have a big story on my hands, or I'm going to have to really go out there and...
But also, there is something else to the attack on the president,
Mhm.
that surely the police could
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
the government could see that if these guys can dare to attack the president of the country, then Sikhs around the city need protection.
Mhm.
That the government had better do something very quickly to ensure protection.
Mhm.
Nothing of this sort happened. Not that day, not the next, not the next.
In fact, the reverse probably happened.
The reverse happened emphatically again and again,
Mhm.
brutally, criminally, and I say this not in, I don't say this loosely,
Mhm.
that let's use some wild adjectives. Oh, how bad, how brutal. No. I'm speaking specifically this brutality, and of course, 3,000 murders, how could it not be? But I'm more specifically, I'm saying criminally.
Mhm.
Criminally, again, I don't use that word in a metaphoric sense.
Mhm.
In the sense of the Indian Penal Code, sure, to kill is a crime, yes. But something else is written in the Indian Penal Code. If you and I are sitting here and within our sight, we see somebody try to kill somebody. If you and I then do nothing, then we are cowards, we are bad citizens.
Mhm.
Yes?
Sure.
But if you and I are police officers in Delhi and we see the same thing, then we are not just people who have in a vague sense failed to do our duty,
Mhm.
we are liable under specific sections of the law.
Yeah.
Specifically section 119 of the Indian Penal Code. That not only is it my duty to act, but if I fail to act, then not only can I be prosecuted by law, I must be prosecuted.
So what you're trying to say is that it's not just civilians who are bound to that law, so is the law.
The law is for the police, and this is a specific
Mm.
section of law that if the police fail to act in knowledge of a crime, the police can be arrested and prosecuted.
Mhm.
And if what you witness is a crime that carries a 5-year sentence, then if as a police officer I witness it and then do nothing, then I can be jailed and I must face jail of up to 2.5 years,
Mhm.
which is half the sentence. This is all quoted, it's written.
all quoted, yeah.
The police learn this from day one.
Mm. And as Sanjay Suri carries on, what we'll get to is the legacy of that and whether this actually took place. So November the 1st, what happens November the 1st for you personally?
Oh, it's not a morning I'll forget.
Mhm.
There was only one television channel, Doordarshan, state-owned. In the morning I get up and I start to dial the police headquarters, nobody answers.
Before you go on, did Doordarshan do their own sort of propaganda or trying to get the common citizen on their side, or to try and look the other way if they see, because it's not a natural thing to see someone being burnt alive to look away. But do you think the Doordarshan had their own little agenda? Did they do anything in terms of getting something out there in the media to make sure that Sikhs were sort of demonized and their death would somehow be acceptable?
Well, I'll tell you what I saw that morning being broadcast on Doordarshan.
Yeah.
So I could get rid of the police, but I switched on the television at home and it had live broadcast from Teen Murti Bhavan, where Indira Gandhi's body had been taken. It was lying in state for mourners to come, or supposed mourners to come. And there were these columns of men passing by, showing no sign of grief, but fists raised, "Khoon ka badla khoon se lenge." So that slogan of the evening before had now been picked up in the same slogan in an organized way,
And nationalized.
and it was being broadcast live. On and on and on. Two messages therefore went out. One, the message they were giving out, that look, we will get blood for blood. They were out to kill. They were calling for murder. Clearly, it was very clear whose blood they were asking for. But there was another message going out, which is that the government is broadcasting this. That's illegal.
It's illegal, yeah.
It's illegal. If you call for somebody's murder here and I hold a megaphone to your mouth, not only are you criminal, I am criminal with you.
Of course, yeah.
Which is what Doordarshan did. It is a crime under specific law. It was a crime that was recorded, codified, it is still there. The Doordarshan can be prosecuted for it now as we speak. They cannot deny that this was broadcast. They cannot deny that the law says this is illegal. Why hasn't the government done this? You can do it now. Okay, that old bureaucrat may be no more, he may be retired, who knows? But at least put on record somewhere that you have acted against an illegality of the government. Do something. To fail to do that is again illegal in itself.
Yeah, of course.
So, Doordarshan was doing this. They were asking for this. But once I saw it was a chilling sight. Government mouthpiece broadcasting call for murder at length, repeatedly. Then,
did they spread rumors as well? Something about the water being poisoned?
I didn't see that on Doordarshan.
Right,
No. But that came later in the night.
Right.
But that was not over Doordarshan.
No.
But then I had to report, I had to begin my day's work, and of course the first thing was at that time not a follow-up on the assassination. That was the big story. To find out, okay, what was behind it, have they investigated, have they found something, particularly that question we spoke about, what were the circumstances in which Satwant and Beyant were killed, or Beyant was killed and Satwant was shot. So anyway, it was this, but then when I stepped out of the house, and we were very poor reporters, I had a little scooter that I used to have to go around, and I stepped out of the house and I froze. There were columns of smoke rising all around me. Just thick columns of smoke rising in the sky.
Where was your house? In
Delhi, in South Delhi, in a place called Malvi Nagar. Anyway, Delhi looked, again I'm trying to speak accurately to you, not in wild metaphoric language or hyperbole. This looked like Delhi had been blitzed in aerial bombing. This was what Delhi was, the smoke. And I didn't know what to do. I couldn't get through the police. I tried the numbers of few police officers and I couldn't get through anybody. So there was nothing to do. What was going on in the city, I don't know. No word from the police, not from anybody else. I see smoke. So how do I begin my day's work as a reporter? I decided to head in the direction of the thickest column of smoke. And that really was a huge, thick column. So on the scooter I went in that direction. It took me to Guru Har Krishan Public School in Vasant Vihar. And I reached there, and that had been burnt. And the source of that fire, what there was the library. These fellows had obviously taken furniture and put it over the books because, well, wood burns, books, paper burns. That's how they saw books. And it was burning, and there were a group of people standing outside and watching this handiwork. Now, I was shocked at this. And the police station is not far, and I knew where it is. And I took my scooter to the police station. I said, look, you could see the smoke from there. They were just sitting around. Twos and threes. There was a full force. There was a full force. There must have been 50, 80 people in the compound and in the station. In uniform, sticks, and a few of them with weapons. Sitting there, they could see the smoke rising. I could see from Malvi Nagar, you could see from Vasant Vihar. They were doing nothing. I said, look, what is this? What are you doing? This one sub-inspector, he said, okay, wait, I'll tell you. Turned around and disappeared, never saw him again. There's nothing more you can do.
At that point, did it occur to you that this may be something sponsored by the state?
Oh, clear!
Yeah.
Clear!
Yeah.
It was clear. It is not an occurrence, there is no other way. It was clear to me that the police were switched off. That there was, in fact, as far as the Sikhs were concerned, no police force, unless it was a police force that was actively working against them.
Yeah, disarming them.
Sikhs had very good reason, sadly, tragically, to fear the police, but certainly they didn't have the police to protect them. This was clear. It was clear from that one sight in that police station, from them watching all this. Anyway, and for me that became a problem. In the sense that when you see something going wrong, what do? You go to the police, which is what I did.
Yeah.
And the police are doing, where am I going to go to after that? I don't know an army unit to go to. Who do I go to? Prime Minister's house? I can't get there. Again, President's house, he himself is not safe. What do I do?
And I think one of the things that you mentioned before we started recording was that you yourself couldn't get in touch or get the police to do anything. But the President of the nation couldn't contact the Prime Minister on that day either, could he?
Well, You know, this is in July of 2015 when there was an event in Delhi where my book was launched. Siddharth Lochan Singh was there, who was then the secretary to President Zail Singh. And Lochan Singh, we all know him, he was later the head of the Minorities Commission. And at the book launch, he said something that we all froze in that room. And a lot of people were there who were, in one way or the other, either linked to or interested in the 84 events. And he said that President Zail Singh was trying from the morning of the 1st all day to get through on the phone to Rajiv Gandhi because he had himself experienced violence. Many people he knew from who had called up and said that Sikhs are being attacked, they are being killed. He was frantic. He wanted to communicate this to the Prime Minister and all day he couldn't get through. This is what Lochan Singh told us. The President can't get through to the Prime Minister of India to save lives in the capital city. This is what happened. It sounds unbelievable. I wish it had been unbelievable. Because look at the killings and the tragedies that went behind this indifference. And Rajiv Gandhi, and I write this in the book, and it's clear evidence. When people say maybe he didn't order the killings, it doesn't matter. As Prime Minister, it was his duty to protect and to ensure protection. He emphatically, deliberately, pointedly failed to do that. It was passive aggression from Rajiv Gandhi that led to these killings.
So that's something that a lot of people don't know about, and I'm glad Sanjay Suri's shared that with us. I mean, we've heard stories about people not being able to contact the police or the police standing by and watching things happen. But here is the president of probably perhaps 1 billion people can't get in touch with the Prime Minister in a national crisis where there's killings going on in the capital of India. I mean, that's astounding, absolutely astounding. So you've left that police station where the library was burning.
Yes, because I said, well, this is I think this is happening. Vasantwala is a sort of affluent locality, neighborhood in South Delhi. I was wondering what is then going on in the rest of the city. So again, I had to remind you, there were no mobile phones. So where do I find a phone? Shops or everything shut. So I took my scooter back to the office. And in order to get to a telephone to make calls to find out what had happened. And when I got to the office, it was a shocking sight. There was one person, Mohan Singh, who I've written about in this book, and came to the launch of the book. He had escaped from Trilokpuri in East Delhi. He had tried to go to the police headquarters, they wouldn't let him in. He had somehow survived the killing. His two brothers were killed in his house. He managed to just get away. He came to the police headquarters, which on the way, they wouldn't let him in. He came to our office because he thought that we will report, and he had some faith in us. And then came to know also that Rakhabganj Gurdwara is under attack. So one of my colleagues, Rahul Bedi,
so a lot of people know Rakhabganj Gurdwara is a historical Sikh shrine and holds a lot of significance for not just Sikhs but for a lot of Hindus, and that's where Guru Tegh Bahadur sort of protected the Hindus from the Mughals.
So look, Rakhabganj Gurdwara, well, every Gurdwara is a place that is held in great esteem and with great veneration, not just by Sikhs but by Hindus all over Delhi. Rakhabganj Gurdwara is next to Parliament.
And that's, I think, quite telling.
Yeah, it's across the road from the Parliament. Is where the seat of the government is. Right? And so my colleagues, Rahul and Joseph, they went to East Delhi to Trilokpuri to vote, and I went to Rakhabganj Gurdwara. 2 Sikhs had been burnt alive in the compound of the Gurdwara. And there was a group surging again and again towards the Gurdwara, and by the side of them I saw Kamal Nath, Member of Parliament, Congress Member of Parliament. At one point they moved up in, and Kamal Nath just did this and they held back. No.
This is just on the outskirts of the Gurdwara.
Outside. Not
Outside.
on the outskirts. Outside, and the
Outside.
wall. The wall.
So there's a mob outside.
Yes, outside.
Kamalnath is sort of
Yes.
just they're
But
going according to
yes,
his Ashari.
Yes, will they? Now, there are two ways of looking at it. How you see it is your call, and any viewer's call, really. Kamalnath says, well, you see, I was actually trying to stop them. That has been his view. My question, which I raised in my book, is what was the relationship between him and that crowd? That number one, he was there. Number two, they're moving up and down, and then at one point he does this, and at that point they hold back. Why were they responding to him? What was that relationship? In Delhi, in the middle of such a violence, and I know Delhi well, it doesn't happen that some sort of leader figure vaguely appears who is not known to people in a white kurta pajama, and he says to a whole group, oh, don't do this, and they obediently listen. It doesn't happen. What was the relationship? These people, don't forget, had come to Rakabganj from Teen Murti Bhavan. These were the same lot, from the same lot that I had seen on Doordarshan, filing by through Teen Murti Bhavan shouting, Khoon ka badla khoon se lenge. This was just a few minutes walk from there.
Right.
So from there they had come, and they knew that the first Gurdwara within sight and within reach is Rakabganj Gurdwara.
So
And they came there.
So the same crowd that Sanjay Suri saw on Doordarshan TV giving their respects to Indira Gandhi was the same crowd now that was outside Rakabganj Gurdwara.
This was confirmed in
That
police
was confirmed.
reports, yes.
Really?
Yes.
And how many in number do you think there were approximately?
That is a very good question, because people have decided that massive mobs came out. Now, Ved Marwa was later police commissioner and as upright an officer as you could get. I wish, and his report was cut short at the last minute by the Congress government, because that was going to nail the police and the government. He has documented, based on the word, that crowds were actually no more than a few hundred strong here and there. These were a few hundred, they were not thousands. So many things follow from this. These were small, relatively small groups mobilized by the Congress party, and I will tell you later, if you, I'm saying this to you in conversation, it sounds like an assertion that I'm making, but in my book I present evidence that it was Congress I that mobilized these people. So these were Congress I bands here and there, and even mobilized bands that attacked, looted and killed. It wasn't masses of people, it wasn't the people of Delhi who came out.
It wasn't a whole people mob.
No, it wasn't people. There's not one instance that I encountered, or any Sikh ever told me, and I went to the refugee camps later, of ever anyone there saying me that, my neighbor, my Punjabi neighbor attacked. Never happened. So these were...
That's probably also quite so chilling that these gangs were actually being transported quite sophisticatedly across.
They were transported effectively, and they moved effectively without anybody stopping them, and they could do what they wanted.
So anybody who often says that this was just an outpouring of emotion at Mother India passing away,
nobody went and killed anybody in mourning for Mother India. There were people who were shocked and grieved by the assassination of Indira Gandhi. I met several, spoke to several. They said this is terrible, but they didn't go and kill. To feel shocked is one thing, to feel upset is one thing. Feel upset is one thing. To murder is something else.
And rape.
To murder and rape, yes, this is something else. And in an organized way. But relatively small, organized, mobilized bands in certain areas, and the same group moving from one place to another to carry out these attacks. These were mobilized hordes that were out to rape and kill and loot. This was not a people's grief expressing itself as murder. No way.
So Kamalnath is standing there, the crowd is there. Where's your position at this point?
I spoke to Kamalnath, but what's more interesting is, what was the position of the police? Because there was a police force there. There was a whole platoon, and platoon meaning 25-30 policemen in the uniform carrying riot shields in a neat formation, standing to one side, just about less than 50 yards from where I was, from where these guys, and watching.
So they weren't in front of the Gurdwara with their shields protecting it, they were on a side.
No. But to my side, but
Mhm.
still in front of the Gurdwara.
Yeah.
And they were standing there in a neat formation, just watching and doing nothing. They were. It's not the case. The police were not there.
Mm.
So people say, oh, the army should have been called. Forget it. These people could easily have been controlled by the police.
Mm.
The government did not need the army. It needed will.
Yeah.
It needed the police to do something. So if it doesn't, these guys were standing watching, and the officer, the number 2 in command in Delhi, the additional commissioner of police, at one point these people came forward again, and he ducked to a side and ran. This was the police. This was, in a sense, typifies the picture of Delhi.
Mm.
These people attacking, 6 killed inside. The police standing watching. This is a picture that actually tells the bigger picture of Delhi. And don't forget, Kamal Nath saying, no, I was trying to go, and then he said later on he sees a reporter hanging around there, says, in a while he gets into his white ambassador car with his lights and whatnot and disappears. And end of story. So then these people also go home.
So
The police go home,
Mhm.
but that's not the end of the matter. That there was some unrest and people have dispersed, end of story. No, there had been murders there.
Mm.
The most serious crime, there had been murders. Nobody was arrested, prosecuted for the murder. They were never investigated, nobody was charged. Under the Indian Penal Code, if there's a group or a mob, right, that attacks and somebody is killed, what should the police do? They may not be able to see who exactly been actually handled and used the weapon.
Mhm.
But they can arrest anyone from that one crowd, or any number of people from that crowd, and they can be arrested.
Mhm.
And then they can be questioned, interrogated, and people then hope to find the actual killer. But if there are people who went in together in a conspiracy, they can be prosecuted and charged. So the murders, the police looked away as if they had not happened.
Did they burn the Gurdwara as well, or did
They did not burn the Gurdwara.
No, okay.
No.
So 3 members were killed there.
2-6 were killed.
2-6 were killed there. And your reaction at that point is, I'm a journalist who, I believe India is a democracy, is a civilized country. Seeing that, how did you feel? Like, I mean, was it something that you probably couldn't even believe that it was happening before your eyes, or?
Again, we spoke earlier about what was expecting and not expecting in
Yeah.
our last conversation. Yes, after what I had seen at Vasant Vihar, I wasn't expecting that the police would do anything. But still, it was very scary. It was frightening. It was frightening. And again, talking of another duality here, it was certainly very frightening to see the violence. But it was also frightening to see the state switched off.
Mm.
It's the basis of law and decency and civilized rule. That something goes wrong, police is there who are in our employment as taxpayers to look after us, protect us.
Mm-hmm.
And if they switch off, then the state itself is criminal. Then we do this, think of the state as some sort of a father figure, a parent figure that's protective and that's going to look after us, to which we contribute.
They're also accountable.
But if that switches off,
Yeah.
so that was very frightening.
So did you have any inclination at that point that this would be happening widespread in other
Oh
areas
yes,
of the
oh yes, it was certain.
It was certain.
It was in Vasant Vihar that morning, the school being burnt, police watching, here 6 killed, and it was clear this would be happening everywhere.
Mhm.
It was also clear because the police could not be reached to say anything, which means they either just were not keeping track of the scale of this, or they didn't want to say.
Mhm.
The police had collapsed. It was certain this would be happening elsewhere.
Mhm.
And sure enough, we had reports from Talukpuri later that evening. The next day I went to Sultanpuri, where hundreds were killed. Hundreds. I was myself attacked
Mhm.
by this mob of people who were clearly from the Congress, which I later confirmed were members of the Congress party.
You were attacked on what day was that?
This will be the next day.
The next day.
Um,
For
because,
being a journalist.
well, I'll tell you what happened. So what I'd been, I mean, silly little detail, but I'd been going around on my scooter. But Sultanpuri was a bit far, and we normally sometimes we would get an office car. It was available, and the editor George Varghese said yes, but no driver was willing to come out in the city. Everyone was just too scared. So we couldn't find a driver, so I was asked to drive it, that old Ambassador car. So I drove to Sultanpuri, which is a neighborhood in the west of Delhi. And there were 3 others with me. Hindi newspaper Jan Satta reporter, another my colleague from Indian Express Ashwini Sareen, and a girl reporter Sevanti Nainan. 4 of us. And we turn into the street and there's a group of people and they say, oh, nothing's happened, go back. It was all very quiet. Must be 15-20 fellows. Then from the back I saw a door open and a hand come out like that. So I said, okay, we'll go back. I'll just find a place to turn and we'll go back. So they let me go through. So I drove right up to this door. And there was a sick person there. He was quaking. And you're talking about what one remembers 30 years later. I can't forget that look in his eyes. And he said that so hundreds have been killed around. He says, do something, or the few that are still alive, they will come and kill us also. Anyway, I turned around and when I went back and these guys were blocking the road. They wouldn't let the car. I had to pull up to stop. The minute I stopped, they came and attacked us from all sides. This fellow came through opened the driver door, he punched me. I had my reporter's pad here where it would take notes. He snatched that, tore my shirt. Then this girl was in the back seat on the left-hand side. And fellow opened the door and grabbed her and tried to drag her. And that's when I said no more, and I put the car into gear and I headed out. And I think I hit one guy from the side and I hit altogether. And we just about managed, these guys ran after us, we just managed to get out of that street. Anyway, we reported, but again, that question, what do you do to protect these guys? And there's no point going to the police station because the police were with them. This is what the manager, the police were behind it. And this was also later documented because there was a Mittal report that made a record along with following the Marwa report where the police were, and documents that there was a meeting where there was a call for killing and the police officers were present at that meeting. Certainly nobody was there to protect anyone in these areas. And so we managed to get out later, then we went back, we got in touch with again, who do you call? So we managed to get through to some of the officers. They said, look, the army has come there. So the army had nothing to do, but the sight of an army unit scares people. I understand that there was no more violence there, but can I put my hand on heart say, I'm very sure, no, I can't be. Maybe they went and picked on this man who talked to us. I hate to think of this. I wish I would say it was impossible, but I can't.
I mean, there's lots of intricacies and there's a lot of things that happened those 3-4 days. So we urge everyone to read the books. I mean, and this is just some of the bigger issues. When you saw Kamal Nath and you witnessed that, what did you do with that information?
I reported it.
You reported it?
Yeah.
Did you not feel frightened or sort of, I mean, if you've seen the whole state switch off, if you've seen the compliance with the murders, did you not feel frightened that if the police can't protect or won't protect innocent civilians getting killed on such a mass scale, didn't you feel frightened for your own safety? I mean, somebody like Kamal Nath, a big MP.
We were aware that if they wanted to target us, they had the means and we would have no protection. We knew that. But with that thought, what can you do? Nothing. You have to do your job.
And which commission did you put your testimony forward to?
Right. So, in fact, somebody asked, and it was apparently quite a fair way to put it. They said, why have you written this book 30 years later? Why did you wait 30 years? I didn't wait 30 years. I didn't wait even one day. Everything was reported there and then. And it appeared on the Indian Express front pages the next morning.
Wow.
The next occasion arose when the Mishra Commission was set up with Justice Ranganath Mishra, who was a sitting judge of the Supreme Court. And so many things I had seen for myself. So I said, well, this is not just me as a reporter 1974 newspaper. I'm a citizen, I've seen this. So I turned these into affidavits and I presented them to the Mishra Commission. And I was summoned and I was cross-examined, nothing came of it.
Was there, I mean, I've read somewhere that they actually asked you in response to your affidavit that was there a witness to say that you were a witness?
Yes, exactly. This is not, this Justice Mishra himself asked.
Justice Mishra
Himself. This is Supreme Court judge. And I remember sitting when he was sitting on this perched on this high stool, not stool, behind a high sort of desk. And he said, so you were there? I said, yes. Can you produce a witness to say that you were there? And I was no lawyer, but I had done some crime reporting and I knew the law a little. And I thought it was an absurd question because if I had an independent witness in tow in any case, he wouldn't be independent, would he? And who goes to report with an independent witness in tow? Then you would need a witness for the witness.
Yeah.
Theoretically, you run out of people in the world. Yes. So, I mean, even then, and not as a lawyer, I'm no lawyer, but even then the monstrosity of this argument, it was clear to me. So I said, no, I have no witness. And he said, all right, can you produce a logbook from your newspaper that specifies, that records that you were at Rakabganj at this time? I said, no newspaper works like that. How would they know where I am? I just gone out to chasing something, I could be here, I could be there. He says, well, if you can't produce a witness to prove you were there, if you can't produce a logbook that establishes you were there, how do I know you were there? How do I know you saw what you saw and that what you're saying is true? So my affidavits were dismissed. This is
at that point
the Supreme Court Chief Justice who was later
Supreme Court
made a member of Parliament of the Congress Party. It was that blatant.
Wow.
This Supreme Court independent judge does this. He finishes an inquiry, he does nothing, it was a joke of an inquiry, and he is rewarded so very obviously. First he is made as Chief Justice, then a Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament through the Congress Party.
Did it dawn upon you when you were asked those questions by Justice that not only was there a mass organised killing, but there's going to be a huge cover-up now?
Oh yeah, it was clear. That was a cover-up. And cover-up again, we use these expressions. Police looking the other way. No, it's not looking the other way, it's criminal. We say, oh, an inquiry, it was a cover-up. It was not a cover-up, it was a criminal cover-up. Because if you've been tasked with ascertaining truth with a view to justice, and you are perverting that process, that is criminal. It was criminal in a more specified way, as it turned out to be, because for the sake of this supposed inquiry, Justice Mishra had all the police records brought to him. So they were sitting with him while he sat on them. So they were not available to the police for any action on their own that any officer might have initiated. There would be it was made sure there would be no records for the police to act on if at all somebody had found the will. Because there's always, as they must have seen a risk of that, because you do have some upright officers.
And it's not just the element of criminal cover-up and just sort of whitewashing, because the paper trail obviously leads all the way up to the top. It's also the element of reward. I mean, Kamal Nath, the person that you saw yourself commit that crime, entered in India's cabinet.
Not just that, I had gone to the Karol Bagh police station and there was one SHO is station house officer in charge of a police station area, an officer of inspector rank, fairly junior, but a very critical post. And that was an SHO by the name of Ranbir Singh, not a Sikh officer, but he's a legend among the Sikhs of Karol Bagh to this day. Down 2 or 3 generations, he saved the whole area. And he rounded up fellows who had looted. And who did they happen to be? They happened to be all members of the Congress Party. We were talking about evidence. I was saying to you, I'm not making assertions. I've got evidence which I put in the book. Look at this evidence. They all happen to be members of the Congress party, and then what happens? The Congress party member of parliament from that area, Dharamdas Shastri, comes to the police station. I was at the police station and I see this. And he says, these are my men. I release them. What more do you want by way of ownership of crime by a senior member of the Congress party? He, number one, claims these criminals as his own. Number two, he asks for the law to be scrapped for the sake of these criminals because they are his men and they're Congress party men. I was at the police station. I saw all this. I reported all this in the Indian Express the next morning.
But we often talk about party politics and the role of the Congress. There's been consecutive governments after us. I mean, currently there's a BJP one. Why still are people, like in your opinion, are the Jagdish Titans of the world, Sajjan Kumar, why are they still roaming free, running government, or why haven't they been prosecuted by the BJP?
You know, I wish I could answer that question. I am limited in who I am and what I have done. Some things I saw are reported. Why governments since then have failed to ensure justice, I don't know. Your question puts me into a pundit's position. I'm not a pundit, of course. I wish I had an answer to that question. I can't understand this. I cannot understand why one government after another will do nothing to ensure justice over 3,000 murders in the city. I don't know.
And for people who often say to us that, you know, it's been 30 years, you need to somehow move on, you need to forget. What do you think about that? Sikhs being forced to, without any rehabilitation, without any justice, without any sort of element of closure, we're constantly being forced to move on. What would you say to that 30 years later for all those people?
I would say to anybody who says that I wish you well. I wish all your members and your family well. I wish all your friends well. But if God forbid one of them had been touched, you might not be saying what you're saying now. Ask the people who have survived. Ask the people who've lost their parents and family. Tell them closure, move on. Move on? How? You know, there was one case in Delhi, by the name of Jessica Lal. She was murdered. And there was an outcry in the media and a long campaign over years. We want justice for Jessica. Oh, very catchy slogan, on and on and on. Why is it all right to ask for justice for one murder and not okay to ask for justice for 3,000 murders? Why? I will ask that question to your Akali party, your Sikh Panthic party. What have they done to seek justice actively? These people were abandoned by the Congress, abandoned by the police, left to be killed by groups mobilized by the Congress party. Who would speak for them? One would think there are 3,000 Sikhs murdered. For God's sake, if anybody will speak for them, it will be Punjab. It will be the sole Sikh Panthic party. What? There is much here for the Sikh establishment also to be ashamed of.
Of course, definitely. More ashamed of.
And I say this in recognition and respect for you as a devout Sikh. But these people were also let down by Sikhs.
Of course. So that's definitely some of the food for thought for everybody. You know, why can 3,000 Sikhs perish and then there's one murder that everybody can get behind and want justice for? That's something for people at home to sort of internalize and sort of make your own minds up about why that happened and continues to happen to this day. We thank Sanjay Suri not just for this interview but for what he done in 1984, the fearless way in which not only did he report on issues but he actually went out, risked his life and helped people as well. And he's got the scars himself, and this is somebody who saw and witnessed things. Imagine those families where 10, 15 members perished ties wrapped around their necks, kerosene poured all over them, and nothing since. Only to see the people that organise this walk freely and even run government. So we're not on this in this month in November, we dedicate this episode to all those people who lost their lives, and we sort of make a pledge that we try and create a system or a society where this thing never ever happens again. We can't afford these things to happen. And you know,
one last thought to share with you, Sarabji. The way to save that from happening would be to see that justice was done. So that as an example is created at least, that nobody tries.
Yeah.
But if this happens and then justice is not done, how do you ensure it doesn't happen again?
Exactly. Thanks so much, Sanjay. You know, really indebted to you for coming down, and thanks for speaking to us. Thanks everyone for watching, and do please purchase and support Sanjay Suri's book, and you can purchase it on Amazon. Thank you very much. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.